We all have a to-do list. Here's an idea. Save hundreds of dollars on car insurance on your to-do list. And the good thing is you don't have to drop off or pick up anything. All you have to do is go to geico.com. In just 15 minutes, you can save 15% or more on car insurance. This company, Geico, who's been with Spike's Car Radio for the longest time, has been offering great rates and great service for over 75 years. And anytime you need help, you can speak to one of their trained specialists 24/7. The company is Geico. Go to geico.com. It may be the most rewarding thing you do today.
Now, Podcast One brings you Spike's Car Radio, a downloadable cars and coffee, hosted by writer, comedian, and automotive enthusiast, Spike Ferriston. Now, here's Spike.
We're just going to start right in today, this week on Spike's Car Radio. Let me see if I can lower this. What's different here, Zuckerman? Is it my seat? No.
I think that...
Oh, wait, there you go. All right. It was my seat was too low and the mic was too high.
You're shriveling.
I thought I was Dick Van Dyking, that my spine was collapsing down. And
yeah, he had a much better starting point than the two of us.
I want to have Dick Van Dyke back on. He's, I think he was one of the very first podcasts we did, right? Were you there? That was
I
Matt
was not
Farah.
there.
No, I had Matt Farah come in for that one. But what a day that was. Just personally for me to have Dick Van Dyke. They grew up watching this guy, and there he is in Malibu hanging out with us.
Can you do the music?
Not without paying the royalties.
Oh.
But he's still performing. He shows up at Bill's every weekend.
Is he
You'll talk to
driving?
him. He drives Jaguars. He told the story about breaking down his Jaguar. He's a really inspiring guy. But why I said, smaller is those old guys. And, this is where we're headed right now. Your spine starts to collapse as you get older. You get in your 90s, you start losing inches down.
And that's when your pants fit right up around your nipples, like my grandpa Abe, who had then shortened his ties to hanky-sized.
Is there any way to protect against that? Like, is there some sort of stent
I'm
we can
looking
put in?
forward to it. I'm looking forward to doing some things he did, which was to take his snotty hanky out of his upper left jacket pocket and offer it to people.
Yeah, you can do that now. We could do that now and get away with it. But what about some sort of spine injection to keep the spine from collapsing downwards?
Why don't we invent something?
I bet Elon Musk has something in the works for that.
Yes.
That's there's another voice in the room today.
LSD.
This is, do you prefer Edward or Ed?
I generally go by Ed.
What about Ted?
I actually was Teddy when I was little.
Yeah, okay.
So, call me anything. Honestly, when your name is...
Let me just introduce you before everybody interrupts. This is Ed Niedermeyer. His new book is Ludicrous, the unvarnished story of Tesla Motors. Ed, thank you for being here.
Thanks
I've
for
been
having
looking forward to this because, Tesla looms very large in our lives these days, and especially on Twitter with your podcasting co-host Alex Roy.
Yep.
And Zuckerman and I, we've been trying to make sense of this Tesla world, and I think a lot of people are too. It's this big mishmash of bringing electric cars to the forefront of the automotive technology in the automotive world. We credit them with that. At the same time, we're trying to reconcile what is Elon Musk doing on Twitter, calling people pedophiles. Yeah. In Thailand, we hear whispers in Hollywood of all sorts of, wild parties and. You wrote a book that pretty much is the start and the finish of this whole thing.
Well, I don't think it's the finish. I think this book really is only the start.
It's the finish.
Believe me, I wish it were. I wish I never. There are definitely times where I wish I never had to write about Tesla again because it is so controversial.
Okay, well, first, I just want to qualify you just as a guy to write the book. Where did you start? What was the name of the automotive blog you were doing?
So I started at truthaboutcars.com.
Okay, right up against that mic.
Yeah,
get it right.
2008.
2008, yeah. And I got into it by accident. I studied political science and just kind of couldn't find a job.
What does that mean, by accident?
Well, so I left school in 2008. And I had a little bit of media experience. But my dad, running a campus magazine and blog, my dad is a huge classic car nut, earliest memories are cars,
right.
Encyclopedic memory of cars. He has a website actually called curbsideclassic.com. And he does history of cars. And so he was writing for this website, Truth About Cars. And they were launching a news blog. They started out with long form only, and then they started a news blog. They said, do you want a shot? And I was like, sure, I'll write about cars. It's something to do. I got to pay rent now.
Right.
So I'm out of school, and it's 2008. I can't get a job waiting tables, so I'll do it. And I just threw myself into it, and that was an amazing time for the auto industry because there were, everything was coming down.
Right.
And it was.
So you're covering like Detroit.
Yeah.
The death watch of Detroit.
Yes.
And then the rebirth of Detroit.
Yep.
And then the death of Detroit. The ups and downs of the whole industry.
Yeah.
Sort of the bigger picture stuff.
Exactly. And so I realized really early on, a lot of people were really good. There were a lot of people writing about cars themselves and were really good at that. And that I needed to find something a little different to do. And my interests have been in economics and politics and trade and the environment, all kinds of different things. So I started using cars as a lens through which to understand sort of society more broadly. And like so I became very interested in the forces that shape it. And that was a really great opportunity to learn like how hard the car business is. And I think a lot of people don't really, we see cars so much as consumers these days that we don't think about everything that goes into making those cars, the systems and the forces that shape them. And so to me, that was really interesting. And then sort of Tesla eventually came along, and it was just a whole other way to look at those forces.
So what inspires you to write this book? What's the moment?
So it's funny. I was actually just driving down here from Portland, Oregon, and I stopped at the place where it all started, which is a little truck stop on the side of the road of I-5 called Harris Ranch. And the first company that I really paid attention to when I was writing to, that I got excited about because I felt like it showed me the future of what cars could be, was an Israeli company called Project Better Place. And they would
and Spike knowingly looks at me. Why? Because I represent all Jews. I represent the worldwide Jewish conspiracy, folks. I've got my hands on the dials and the switches.
I was just looking at you.
You gave me a knowing look.
Are
Jews.
you not?
Are you familiar with Better Place?
No, I am not. But he looked at me like I should be familiar because I know all of them.
So
go ahead.
Don't you?
I do. And wait, hold on. I'm working the switches and dials.
Through the Rolodex.
The world media and the financial
my
markets.
name, Morris Fernstein. But go ahead, continue.
Mr. Soros.
So they were.
Lying.
This was a company that had this really brilliant idea, I thought, which was sell an electric car without the battery.
Okay.
So the car is cheaper. It costs, right?
Battery's not included.
You take
Sell a flashlight
literally
without batteries.
Literally,
Battery's not included. This is hilarious.
the battery is the most expensive part of the electric car.
Right.
If you sell a car without the battery, it's the same cost as any other car.
Okay.
And
then,
useless.
if you don't own the battery and you live within a country like Israel, right? They would have these swap stations, and so it would
Like propane tanks?
Yeah, you would just drive in, it would swap the battery out and put it back in. And so it solved, to me, the two biggest problems with EVs, which are charge time and cost. And so I thought,
is
this is a brilliant idea. And I was young and naive at this time. And so I thought what mattered in this world was having good ideas.
Right.
And I was like, this is a good idea. This has to succeed. Well, it didn't succeed. It blew up and hundreds of millions of dollars went up in the air. And it's a fascinating story in and of itself.
Right.
But then I thought, battery swap will never happen again. And then Tesla started talking about it.
Right.
And they put this swap station in. They demonstrated. I was suspicious from the get-go because they demonstrated it once, and it was all behind a curtain. They said it was all automatic, no humans involved, but it was behind a curtain. I'm like, that's interesting.
Did they use the word curtain?
Screen?
No, it was pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Yeah,
see.
it was very, very Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, we need AC in here.
And
Zuckerman's flatulence will begin any minute now, so we want.
It already began when I was calling Mr. Soros my other Jewish friend.
Is Soros Jewish?
Well, okay.
Is that why he's so much part of the right-wing conspiracies? I didn't know that.
Well, you said it, but yes, that is part of it.
So there's just a whiff of anti-Semitism and all that.
Yeah, but we don't say anti-Semitism. We don't even call him a Jew. We call him an internationalist, a global internationalist.
I don't know what that means.
Yes, internationalism is synonymous with Jewish conspiracies, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. You see, we like to take little tangents.
yeah, no, that's
Are you familiar with these little things?
I've heard a few things. Yeah.
Because before the show we started talking about our friend, Mr. Ford, another visionary, Henry Ford, and he had also some amazing theories that worked out and some kooky theories about the international
Who was the first
Jew.
Nazi stand-up comedian that we were always laughing
Oh God,
about?
now
Yeah, okay, you work on that.
Yes, Frank.
Frank.
Yes,
Come on.
Frank Fay.
Frank Fay. Good,
Yes.
Zuckerman. Wow. Look at that. Steel trap memory. All right.
So I'm sorry, this story is a little long, but the long story, the short version is that
That's what we
5
want.
months after they announced that this was open, they were like inviting people to use it.
Okay.
Hadn't found a single report online of anybody using it.
Right.
Went down there randomly on Memorial Day weekend because there was going to be a ton of traffic, and just was like, I want to see if this is real. So not only did they not open it, there were all these lines for superchargers. People were saying they did this drive all the time. Tesla hadn't invited them. As far as they knew, like, this wasn't even available. Couldn't find anyone. And they all said
the idea was being that you would drive your Tesla as it was running out of juice. You'd pull in for a battery swap, and you'd get to move on.
And it would take you 5 minutes.
But wait, let's just back up, because I think how you describe it is a little confusing. This is something Elon Musk, Tesla's already been formed at this point, right?
Yeah, and this is the Model S.
This is the Model S. This is a new thing that Tesla is putting out, and they announced, because I remember this.
Yeah,
it's all we're gonna swap your batteries out, and that's how we're gonna solve these quick charge time issues.
Exactly.
So you can start traveling outside of your city.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're saying you went to that place?
Yeah, on Memorial Day weekend, just to see if it was real,
just to see how it works.
Yeah. Well, so what happened was, sure enough, there was tons of traffic. There were like 3 deep lines for the superchargers, which means someone takes an hour to charge, then the next person takes an hour to charge, and then you get an hour. So you're sitting there for 3. People were pissed. Kids crying in the back seat. People saying they would pay any price in the world to swap their battery and just go.
Right.
But it wasn't available. What Tesla did do instead of making the swap station available is they brought in a couple extra superchargers and hooked them up to diesel generators. And so I'm sitting there watching people charge up their environmentally friendly green cars with the exhaust, just going out, the diesel exhaust going right there.
Right.
And I'm like, look, this is not something that normal companies do.
Right.
And when you do investigative journalism, you have to know that it's going to be worth investing your time to really dig into this company. And when you see something like this, there's never just one cockroach, right? Like, when you see a company act in this way, there's going to be more stuff. And so I started digging, and I found a bunch of cockroaches.
Wow.
And just a totally different story of how this company.
What are the first cockroaches you find that make you go, you know what? I think this is a book.
So actually, about a year later, one of the biggest stories I had was I found out that they were having people sign non-disclosure agreements in return for what was called goodwill repair, which is like warranty, but it's not really warranty, so they can do some different accounting with it. But
he's a PI lawyer, right?
Oh,
so this is his whole world.
Oh, yeah. So they would make people sign a non-disclosure. And what that did was that prevented people from reporting defects to NHTSA, the safety regulator. And so the safety regulator was cut off from their only independent source of data. I wrote the story about this.
Look at his brain swimming.
Literally, as soon as I discovered the story, that was when I was sort of like, okay, there's enough here. Like, I really have to start thinking about a book.
Cheating. Is that okay? Is that the most shocking thing you discovered, or was that? Because that's shocking to me.
On the safety front,
why is that shocking to you, Zuckerman?
Because there's rules. There's rules that you.
This to me, as someone on the outside of a corporation, this to me is just like standard corporate.
Yes,
bullshit,
I mean, we see it again and again, but it continues to shock in the way that Dieselgate shocks, which in the way that sudden unintended acceleration with Toyota shocks. Car companies are supposed to report defects or problems to NHTSA, the National Highway Transportation Safety Authority, so that there could be an independent organization that tracks these things and then says, oh, hey, wait a second, you got a big problem here and you need to do a product recall. This is beyond some object or part breaking. This is a defect like Takata airbags. It happens again and again and again, but when you have a new...
razors out of those pillow bags.
When you have a new visionary company that's supposed to change the way that things are happening, and I might be stealing your thunder, but when I hear this, I say, my God, this new company that's supposed to be paving the future, and we envision the future is going to be a different world, a better world, a less corrupt world, a safer world, engaging somehow immedately in the worst of the worst tactics that old Detroit does, old car industry does. You go, holy shit! Was it genetically inbred to cheat? Is it just the way everything is always done from day number one?
Yep.
Or is it
it's a real Silicon Valley mentality,
right?
It's always
rules don't apply to us.
New rules don't apply to us. We're geniuses.
We're the future.
But there's also a unique aspect to it, and this is so. Once I started uncovering a few of these cockroaches, also, I found them violating the Tread Act with these stealth recalls overseas and not reporting all kinds of stuff, and. Clearly, these are not bad people, right? Clearly, I don't think anybody, even me as a critic of Elon Musk, can't deny that his fundamental motivation is to make things better. And so I really wanted to understand, how is it that someone with the best intentions in the world ends up doing really questionable things. By the way, the battery swap, too, that was a way to get tens of millions, potentially up to hundreds of millions of dollars of extra revenue from the credit program, the California Air Resources Board credit. And the CARB's own staff was telling them we're getting ripped off by this fake battery swap thing. And the board members were like, yeah, but it's Tesla. Future. Don't worry about it too much.
It's because it's Tesla, so they give him a pass.
They give him a pass. And all of these things...
It's just a straight con. It's, you know...
There are these moments where Tesla has cut corners or done things that are, you know, very problematic, potentially illegal in some cases. And they've gotten away with it because of their image in a lot of it. But the reason that they've done it is because they took a unique approach to the auto industry in that they tried to take the Silicon Valley venture capital fundraising approach and bring it to the car business. And I think that's at the root of a lot of where Tesla has gone really, really wrong, because what that VC model is, you know, you raise money, you sort of operate unprofitably, and eventually you reach a point where your business can be profitable theoretically. And so it's built around software, right? So when you develop software, you invest in it, you build the software, and once you build it, it's like you can scale it infinitely for no extra cost. It's one big fixed cost to develop. Once you pay it off, it's like 100% profit margins, and that's how you get big, extremely profitable tech companies. Car business is not like that. And so using that venture capital approach to fund a car business where the key is not just develop one product and then you get 100%, you know, huge profit margins once you pay it off. You also have incredibly complex operational challenges on top of that. And so what has happened is that Tesla, from the very early on, underestimated how hard cars were. And so
those guys, all those other people are stupid. We're smart.
Exactly.
Yeah, hubris, Jesus.
And so they got behind.
We all like to draw cars when we were little kids. They go, I could do this better.
Yeah.
And then steep learning curve of pain.
And so then they start losing money, realize that it takes more money to develop even the Roadster. So we go out and we raise more money. And what this does is it gets them in this cycle where they have to come out with a new thing that's just around the corner all the time. And come up with, you know, creative revenue sources like bilking the California Air Resources Board credit program for tens to hundreds of millions of dollars with the battery swap thing. They keep having to do these things to get ahead. And I think what the book shows is sort of how that cycle escalates over time and how good intentions eventually, but believing that the ends justify any means, gets you to a point where all of a sudden you're actually doing bad
And then
things.
you're John DeLorean and you're in the room with the cocaine.
I mean...
And the parallels are shocking is what I'm hearing.
That's... I mean, the car business...
So is there a moment where they run out of money?
Oh, repeatedly, right?
No, I mean like run out, like they're done.
So it's funny because people have been saying like, oh, you've been predicting that Tesla will be doomed for 10 years and you've been wrong all the time. Well, what I've been wrong about is that people have continued to keep pumping money into the company. Every 12 to 18 months, Tesla needs $1 to $2 billion pushed into the company.
Have they made a profit yet?
Not an annual profit. They made a couple quarterly profits, but they're tiny.
So they're underwater every year of their life.
Yeah, for 15 years now almost.
Wow.
16
I didn't
years
know
now.
you could do that. Maybe it's because I never studied business.
It's called Hollywood?
Huh?
Isn't that Hollywood?
No,
like
Hollywood, you can, but you're getting paid. You're making money. Yeah, you can lose money and fail upwards in Hollywood, but eventually you have to do something.
Okay, but remember,
right?
like all these years.
But I didn't know you could create a business that every year you're losing money.
Well, that's called a Ponzi scheme. That's called Bernie Madoff. That's called something Ponzi dealt in, I think, safety matches is what he dealt with.
No, but isn't the idea that you're taking money in and then after 3 or 4 years you're suddenly profitable, right?
But you're able to generate enough profit, then pay off those investors, and then make that investment be a...
But I think at a certain point, was it the Hunt brothers who cornered the market on silver back in the 80s? Are you familiar with this story, Edward?
I've heard of it.
Well, they said once that, if you borrow $1 million from the bank owns you. But if you borrow $100 million, you own the bank. And basically what you're telling me is an updated version of this again, where Tesla owns the bank, where everybody's in so deep.
They can't get out.
They have to continue to pay. They know they're getting conned, but
maybe he can start the next recession by himself, kind of like Shearson Lehman. It'll just be he goes down, and then the whole world goes down.
Well, and this is actually why a lot of Silicon Valley people don't want to be critical of Tesla, is because they know if Tesla does go down, everybody else that's in this burgeoning mobility technology
Uber
space, whether it's
scooters,
TNC, scooters, autonomous drive companies, tens of billions of dollars of investment tied up in these companies, that because of these just mental associations, if Tesla goes down or has a big issue, all of those companies are going to take valuation haircuts. and they're going to be only worth, they're only going to be millionaires and not billionaires.
This is Ed Niedermeyer, author of Ludicrous, The Unvarnished Story of Tesla Motors. Pittsburgh Post-Gazette reviewed your book. A fellow by the name of Patrick McGinty. Kind of reminded me of Pat McGroin. Get it?
The real McGinty.
Pat McGinty. This was his review. In Ludicrous, Elon Musk is a hoaxer for the 21st century. And he really gets into a lot of the stuff. I really enjoyed reading this because I thought it was just me, but obviously it's not. He blames the media. Hostile tweeting is his preferred form of communication unless you count non-disclosure agreements, as you were saying. He requires no advertising budget, not when his army of online evangelizers will attack anyone who doubts his vision. Let's just stop right there.
Yeah.
I do admire the guy, and a lot of people admire the guy for what he's done and what he created. Who are these nut jobs on Twitter and I'm sure on Instagram I'm going to hear about when I post this show? Because they have a religiosity to them. They have a cult-like reaction to things. Yeah. What is that? What am I looking at?
So I think there's a combination of things. I think on one level, what Tesla has done is create a confluence of sort of ideological things, right? Saving the world, the environment, global warming, frustration with slow pace of change in cars, right? And then on the other hand, you have this financial incentive where a lot of the biggest fans are also investors in the stock, and they have this belief that, with the internet, you can sort of shape reality. And if you sort of spin everything and enough people get together and spin things enough, then you can create this.
That's a truth. That's not a belief. That's advertising or,
And when these forces combine, it's like, I love history. And like in the Crusades, the Fourth Crusade, they went to go liberate Jerusalem. And instead they ended up going up and sacking Constantinople, which was the biggest city in Christendom, because there was this weird mixture of like the Venetians' commercial interests. They were competing with them, and then also this religious aspect. And when you get those sort of ideological and financial incentives aligned together, things go off the rails. And I think that's what's happened with Tesla's culture.
And what has happened with you personally? Have they been reaching out to you?
So in 2016, when I just decided to write this book, and I wrote that story that I mentioned earlier about the non-disclosure agreements, Tesla wrote a blog post about me. Apparently it was basically drafted by Elon Musk. And they said that I make stuff up, that I'm shorting their stock.
You're a pedophile?
Yeah, they did not say that. Things have progressed a little since then. And I wasn't the first journalist that they attacked.
These were untruths. These were lies about you. They smeared you.
Lies. Yes. Yep.
See, this is where, to me, the Elon Musk Tesla story, it veers into Trumpism and the way they handle bad news or criticism, these personal attacks. I see those similarities, and the boasting too, the weird boasts that we're the greatest and we're the best. I wouldn't say it's as bad as what's going on right now, but it's still it's relative, right? And I wouldn't even say that I'm not saying that he's a right-wing conservative in any way. I'm just saying the way he sees the world and himself.
Him against everyone.
And him against everyone, right.
Yep.
Because you're pointing out some valid bad behavior with this battery swap. You're saying, hey, this is wrong. Yeah. And I think most of us listening right now would go, okay, yeah, even though I like Tesla, that's wrong to defraud the state of California like that. That's not right.
Right.
That's a con.
Yep.
Right.
And why shouldn't someone call it out?
Yeah.
And, that's what he chooses to do. He doesn't choose to address the action he took. He attacks you for pointing it out.
And I think one similarity, so the culture outside the company, of course, reflects the culture inside the company.
Right.
And so I've talked to a lot of people inside the company, and one of the big challenges there is that to run a company that's 30,000, 35,000, 40,000 employees, you can't just manage. One person cannot manage that. It doesn't matter if they're the most brilliant, genius manager ever, born. It can't be done. What you need is culture. And the problem at Tesla is that the culture is all just, will Elon like this? It's like a dictatorship. It's not a managed place. It's really a dictatorship. And the problem with that is that
personality.
Like
it's North Korea.
But Zuckerman, wouldn't you like that? You run a business. I like it. I would mind it if people were like, "Will Spike like that?" I would love it more if more of my employees said that.
You would hate it because.
But I do like honest feedback.
Yeah, you
right?
would. You would hate it because you would not be able to. You're more objective than that. You don't need to be tickled that way every 2 seconds.
I like a good tickling.
And I think a lot of smart people understand that no matter how smart you are, everyone makes mistakes, and you need to have people around you who can call you out and rein you in.
Yes.
And the thing is that Tesla doesn't have that, and so Elon's personality is taking it off into these weird realms that just don't make sense.
Have you gotten any death threats?
Yeah.
Remember Silkwood?
Wait, hold on. Wait, really?
Yeah, violence. Yeah.
On social media?
Yeah, email, social media.
Wow, email. So someone had your email. Well, that's
I mean, my email's not that hard to find.
Some ecologically green-friendly person is gonna bash your head in.
No, it's not. I mean, I sense some of the same frustration here with Ed that I have with this company, which is I love everything they do. I just want them to do it right.
You want them to win, but win right.
Win right.
We love the idea, but play a clean game.
You know, we were. I told you Erica was looking for a car, and with all the nonsense that Elon puts out there, I just couldn't trust that it was truly a safe vehicle to put my kids and my wife in. I didn't believe in it. I just thought there's too much nonsense here, and I can't bet my family on that. Yeah. Right.
So it's interesting.
And it was a bummer because they wanted the car. We all wanted the car.
So the Mustang Mach-E, I know just.
Right.
Was released last night. Have you seen that yet? Pretty good look.
Stealing the thunder of the Taycan turbo word usage is the Mustang. What? Wait, what? That's not a Mustang? God bless. They must be so happy Porsche did that turbo thing, don't you think? Good Ford, right? Because now we can call this weird egg-shaped electric thing
the Mach-E.
No, a Mustang. It's not a Mustang. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, and I think it shows what the auto industry does again. So people from the tech sector think that what matters in the car business matters in the tech sector, which is being first mover advantage.
Yes.
If you're the first smartphone like iPhone, you become Apple.
Right.
In the car business, it doesn't really work like that. Actually,
No.
So I use the example of Citroën in here. Citroën had front drive unibody construction way back in the 20s. Even they had the shape, the technology, the fundamental technological concept of what cars have now become, but it wasn't enough. Wow. It takes all this other, and what the industry is good at is not necessarily pushing things forward. Industry's bad at pushing things forward, but once things do get pushed forward, they're really good at taking the innovations that work and commoditizing them. And I think that's what you're seeing. So Tesla. People really, they have to love them. It's like Jaguar. You were referencing Jaguar. Everyone has a breaking down story if you own a Jaguar. You have to love a Jaguar to own a Jaguar.
Dick Van Dyke told his breaking down story. You're exactly right.
Yeah, and so it's part of the deal. It actually makes it more appealing that you love the car so much that you put up with that.
Right.
And so there's a bunch of that happening with Tesla. And for the early adopters and the techies, and this is why if you go to Palo Alto, there's Teslas everywhere. And it's because people in the tech sector look at that car and they're like, this car reflects who we are. And they like that. That's so important to them that they buy it and they put up with all this crap like bad quality, 3-month wait for parts sometimes. But for the mass market, they're not going to put up with that. And that's why I think Tesla really needs to just be a small volume. They need to be Silicon Valley Porsche and not try and get into the mass market. And I think what you see with the Mach-E and some other cars that are coming out is I think that the regular automakers are going to make things that are like 80% of a Tesla, 85% of a Tesla in terms of the tech and the performance and all that. But go to a dealership that you know and you trust. It's reliable, always parts there, better build quality, just a more approachable, easygoing, mainstream consumer experience. And I think that's going to be a real problem for Tesla.
Here's what Pat McGroin said. One of my favorite lines from the review. Elon Musk is a human bingo card of things I dislike about the 21st century. Isn't that a nice line? It's a nice line. Let's go. Let's take a break on that line, Mr. McGroin's well-put words, and we'll be right back here with Ed Niedermeyer, author of Ludicrous, The Unvarnished Story of Tesla Motors. So how do you know your motor oil is good enough to protect your engine? Well, guess what? You don't, but one brand does. They literally go the extra mile with everything. I'm talking about our friends at Valvoline. That's right, Valvoline is the only motor oil brand in the world with an engine lab completely dedicated to testing motor oil. They take their products and their competitors, I might add, and they run them through the gauntlet. You hear that, Zuckerman? I'm talking thousands and thousands of miles. Then their engineers and technicians drink that oil. No, they don't. They take those engines apart piece by piece and evaluate exactly what happened. Was there carbon buildup? How did the seals hold up? Did the engine perform like it was supposed to? And most importantly, were the critical engine components protected? So when Valvoline is formulating oil for your engine, they know exactly how it performs and what protects it best. They've seen the results firsthand. It's why I trust Valvoline in my cars, in my motorcycles, in my mini bike, And it's why Valvoline has been trusted for more than 150 years. Head over to Valvoline.com/Spike to see what product is right for your engine.
You're listening to Spike's Car Radio.
All right, we're back. Ed's here with his book, Ludicrous, The Unvarnished Story of Tesla Motors. Buy it for that electric car someone this holiday where you buy your books at your local bookseller.
Or e-seller.
Or download it to your brain directly. Go ahead, Zuckerman. You wanted to follow up. Go.
I'm thinking of, the movie Tucker. Was it Jeff Bridges?
Yeah.
And now I'm seeing Mr. Niedermeyer here should be writing the script for Musk, which will come out in 2050 when this
there's
is
some
long.
Howard Hughes element to this,
of course.
too.
So I think Howard Hughes is actually the best parallel to Elon Musk. Like, if you want to understand him, I think Howard Hughes is who you have to look at. Yeah.
Except maybe instead of the OCD, it's microdosing.
Instead of peeing in jars and keeping your fingernails.
Peeing in jars with your Molly and then drinking it.
Yes.
So the answer is no. I'm not currently working on a movie. I do think it would make a great movie, and I don't spend a lot of time in L.A., so maybe if you guys have suggestions of people...
I don't think I'm really around in 30 years to help this, but I think because it's a 30-year out story, right?
Yeah.
We need a little bit of space where we forget about this guy and then are reacquainted with this hubris that reflects the...
Who's Elon? Who are we casting for Elon Musk?
Well, again, 30 years.
No, right now. You can make this movie right now. What do you? Come on, let's do it.
Oh, you're better at this than me. James Belushi. I knew that would get you.
Perfect. James Belushi as Elon Musk. That would be good. I would write that. That would be good. Let's put that up on like a little theater on Melrose and make our friends go see it. That would be good. Well, who do you think could play Elon Musk? Who would be a good Elon Musk? Where would we put that?
I mean, you could go a couple different directions. And
Harry Potter guy.
Harry Potter guy. What about Dumbledore? Is he still around?
Yeah.
No, I think, who's the guy? And I'm thinking Dennis Quaid.
He's too old.
You think?
Yeah.
He's got the crazy googly eyes, though. He'd play
a young John Turturro.
He'd play a googly-eyed Elon Musk. What about really fat Russell Crowe? He'd be also
throwing shit, throwing large batteries,
throwing his own feces like this as he walks around. I'm fascinated with the office culture of Elon Musk because those little things you read where it's like if you're not contributing in a meeting, he'll just get up after a minute and walk out, or he takes meetings in 5-minute intervals. Like all of those little details are, if we were still writing Seinfeld, are perfect stories for either Elaine's boss or George or somebody, because it's so, and when you read it, it's so stupid. It sounds like it makes sense, but then you're like, God, this is so... Can you imagine just getting up in a meeting and walking out in front of your boss in 5 minutes if you're not contributing? What would actually happen in the real world?
I've heard some amazing stories that actually couldn't go in the book because...
All right.
Well, no, one of the hardest things about this book was that people are terrified to talk about this company.
Right. So tell us some amazing
Elon Musk
stories.
Attacks people and destroys them.
What's that?
I mean, Elon Musk attacks people and destroys them. So one of the things that is in the book was, he famously, goes and solves all the problems in the factory. Well, you talk to the people who actually have manufacturing experience who are involved in those situations, and they're like, no. Like, he doesn't know anything about manufacturing. He goes in and like, he motivates people, but it also stresses people out and yells at them and screams. And at one point, this guy was told, and this was one of the rare ones that I actually could use because
why couldn't you use the other ones? Because you can't verify them?
Because a lot of times it would be something that he just said to one person, and if I told them, it would immediately identify who my source is. Protecting sources was one of the most important things in this book, and I had to leave a lot of stuff out to protect them. But yeah, Elon Musk said, I could be in Bora Bora right now, enjoying the company, shall we say, of an actress. But instead, because you are a bunch of idiots, I have to be here and solving all your problems.
But wait a second. But isn't he an idiot for being with that actress?
Right? I mean,
and by the way, the actor's Mark Ruffalo. Mark Ruffalo is Elon Musk today.
No, that's a little too hulky and sleepy, I think. He's
got a
he
can play a wacky look on his face.
You need someone who's thinking and whacking and turning, and it's a little spectrum-y and, moving around and talking like that. Who's that guy?
The guy from the iRobot.
Huh?
Mr. Robot dude.
Googly
Rami Malek?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
Mr.
What
Robot.
about James Franco?
James Franco would be too much of a
Like
sex hound. Elon
Yeah,
Musk.
who plays the
that
girl?
wouldn't
Well,
work.
Who plays
Do you think that that's not a character? Did you know that Elon Musk used to own a
a whorehouse?
a nightclub in Hollywood that was
Well, that
famous for
sounds-
its lingerie dancers? Like, there's this
sounds
side of
cool.
Elon that people don't know. No, I know, but like
We know.
he's like the nerd
Also,
god
when he was
king.
yelling
but
at,
like,
I could be somewhere else speech. That seems like something both you and I would say to people who work for us, Zuckerman. Get your shit together, people. That's a very relatable boss statement, but, I want to know more about like the personal rules, like how these claims of overhauling office life and changing the way it works. That's the stuff.
Yes, because now we're going to think in the cult of Elon, he probably has an advanced way to go number 2 in the office. He's going to solve that problem.
My
too.
sources have not revealed those.
You look
deep,
into
dark
that for me.
secrets.
Well,
Yeah.
you hear what about the sleeping on the floor? Like, there's a lot of reports that he's just laying on
Thomas
floors,
Edison.
falling asleep. Wherever he decides to sleep.
It definitely happens. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Used to happen to me, but then I had reasons for that.
But also, he kind of tends to, because he's also got SpaceX and he's got the Boring
Right.
Company and all this other, the flamethrower business, whatever, all this
I
other
didn't
stuff.
like the flamethrower idea.
I did.
And so he kind of
that
parachutes
was really
in.
dumb.
And again, with the a car manufacturing system is it's process driven and it's about consistency over a long period. And you can't. It's very hard to just have someone drop in and be like, change everything based on what I think is right, without really understanding how the system is working.
Okay, now Alex Roy's not here.
No.
But certainly I follow him on Twitter, and between him and Farah, and I'm sure yourself, this autopilot madness and controversy that you guys really, dig down on, that I'm having trouble understanding. From where I sit, it appears as if you guys object to this being called autopilot because it's not a full autopilot.
It's an assist.
It's an assist.
Yeah.
But also I guess the argument is this is just it's a copyright of something that we're selling, but you think it's misleading.
No, so actually,
explain the controversy to the audience and why we should be upset about this autopilot.
Okay. So Google was developing self-driving cars, right, for a long time, since the early 2000s. And around end of 2012, they had this idea, and they thought, okay, we know we have a long ways to go for cars to fully drive themselves, but we think our cars are pretty good at driving on the freeway. What if we had this product called Autopilot, literally, only there was a capital P, which Tesla doesn't capitalize, and let's test this on our employees. Let's let our employees take it and commute with it and see what happens. So they did that. The employees, they had cameras in the car, and you can see they've showed this footage, using multiple devices, putting on makeup. I mean, they were just not paying attention. And for this stuff to be safe, it was a driver assistance system. For it to be safe, you had to be ready to sort of take over at a moment's notice. And Google was like, listen, we cannot put this on the market. This is way too dangerous. And to understand, the problem is not that the technology is good or bad.
It didn't work out.
Didn't work good enough.
It's the interaction between the human and the technology. Which for a tech company, they're like, wait, now we have to crawl inside the mind of this person behind the wheel?
No, look.
We don't want to do that.
I've been doing a run of cars right now that have a lot of that technology in it. And the message it sends to even a person like me, who I consider is fairly educated about cars. But when I turn these elements on, these driver assists, I immediately in my head I go, what can I do with this time now, right? And I know enough from reading you guys and following. I was like, there's a reason that I need to keep my hand on the wheel every 10 seconds. But I totally understand everybody else is going, oh, I think this car drives itself. It's a very common thought, I think. And I think most people just go, I'll take a nap, I'll read, right? And I'll do this other stuff because nothing is telling me otherwise.
Right. And so people have actually started to die. And there have been a number of cases, and
someone got run over. I remember seeing footage of a homeless woman crossing a street at night.
Arizona.
Well, that was Uber. That was an Uber test vehicle. That was a different situation. But with Tesla, what it turned out what happened, the NTSB, which is the investigative sort of part of the auto safety regulatory apparatus, started looking into these crashes, right? And they've done 2, and they've got 2 more that they're currently investigating. And what seems to happen every time, and they've repeated these recommendations twice, is that these systems need two things. First of all, they need a better way to make sure that the driver's actually paying attention.
Right.
Because all you have to do right now with the Tesla is put 1 pound-foot of torque on the wheel, and it thinks you're paying attention. Well, you don't have to, right? I could be doing anything and putting a hand on the wheel.
No, the driver, because I was doing it, was going, I'm going to try to fool the system.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm going to touch it, I'm going to bump it, but I'm trying to fool the system because I want you to drive.
This is hilarious.
Yeah.
It's like when the waiter gives you the plate and says it's hot, you always touch it. You're always fucking with the
Our line on
the
Seinfeld was, I just want to know what your idea of hot is.
Right.
And the other problem is that because also Tesla wants this to be perceived as more autonomous than it really is, it lets you use it anywhere.
Right.
Even though the system's only designed to be used safely on highways.
But how do you get us to pay attention in the car then? That's an open question, I guess.
Well,
the
so I
interface
think Cadillac
between man
Super
and
Cruise
machine.
is the way forward, right? So it has a camera that's watching you.
Okay.
And so it can actually tell where your eyes are. And actually, Tesla's engineers told Elon Musk, we have to put this in the car. And again, they knew. So the funny part with Google.
So wait,
Google had a deal to buy Tesla, and this is how Tesla found out about autopilot, even though they also knew that Google knew that it was unsafe. And Tesla was like, well, you guys might be a bunch of pussies for not putting this on the road.
Right.
We're not. We'll sell it to people and tell people it's autonomous.
Right.
And it's been very good for their business, except that now people are dying. And it's because of specific
cheering.
specific design problems that they can't just update with over-the-air updates.
So let's go back to this camera. So the camera is looking at my face, and it knows that I'm doing something else.
Yeah.
So then, what does it do? What can it really do to me
Stop
to make me
freeway?
It turns off the assistance. It just makes you drive.
Right, but in turning off the assistance, if
There's a
you're in the
moment.
middle of a turn,
So it gives you auditory and visual warnings.
Right.
Warning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Have you done Cadillac Super Cruise?
No, I have not.
Okay.
But I know what you're talking about. I know this dance with the car because I've been doing it on the 405 with these cars.
Yes.
And then I start getting mad at the car. Then I go, I still go in my head. I make this I have this conscious thought that I want you to do the whole job or do none of the job.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Because you've got me in this middle area that I don't like. I can't relax and I can't drive.
Yep.
Right?
No.
That's it, right? That's
That is
where
the problem.
we're at.
And it's because people have been told that autonomous cars are so close, and they want it.
Right,
people
we
understand,
do.
and it's because, just like you said, you put your finger on it, people want their time back. And the thing is, these systems don't give your time back.
No.
If they're designed safely, they don't. What Tesla did is, by designing it unsafely, it made people feel like, you can have a little bit of your time back, You're taking, it's risky. We're telling you in the official legal boilerplate, don't do it. But we're not doing anything to actually stop you from doing it.
So what does it do right now? Like in Tesla's self-driving system or autopilot, what can I do in it?
So really what it does is...
What's the point of the option? Because it's like a $7,000 option?
Yeah, well, the full self-driving. Yeah. So there's autopilot and there's full self-driving.
Okay.
So autopilot, right, it's a highway system. Like Alex Roy drives from New York to Pittsburgh, like, regularly for his commute, like, because he works in Pittsburgh, and for long drives like that, he really enjoys it. And I get it, and I trust Alex Roy is a safe, well-educated driver who's not going to do a bunch of really dumb stuff with it. I do not trust most drivers as much as I trust Alex Roy, having also like driven across India with him and stuff. But the full self-driving thing is a different thing, and I think that gets back to what we were talking about before, where they're having to constantly do these escalating things. Where it's like, oh, we have this thing right around the corner. Oh, but this next thing right around the corner is going to be the biggest one yet. And
so we don't. So Tesla doesn't have full self-driving yet.
They do not. It's an option that you can buy.
And how is it going to be different?
It's not. They're never going to be able to deliver it. Is the answer? This is
so
the point.
In that way, it's the same.
And a lot of people, they look at the stuff that I write about in the book, and they get so mad at Tesla, and they hate Tesla, and they call it, all of it is a fraud. I don't believe everything about Tesla. I think Tesla's done a lot of good things. They've survived much longer than I could have expected, in part because they're willing to do things that others aren't.
Right.
But I think full self-driving is the point at which they crossed a line, because they are taking people's money for something that they absolutely cannot deliver with any level of safety. If they actually put something out there with the hardware that's in the car, and this gets into very technical stuff about
but let's not
radar systems and
let's forget
LiDAR.
about that. What are they selling? They're telling us right now full self-driving will do what? That I will pull this car out of the garage myself, you can hop in, and I will take you anywhere, highway, back roads.
They're saying more than that. So they're saying it's level 5, which means fully autonomous, no human input in any and all circumstances.
The Jetsons.
That's the very highest level of autonomy. No other autonomous vehicle company, even though they have sensor suites that cost 100 times more than Tesla, or whatever, like some order of magnitude more than what Tesla does. Even they say we're only going to operate within like Waymo. So I did a fully driverless ride in Waymo in Arizona. They're only doing that within a very certain area and slowly expanding that over time. And they own the vehicles, and it's like a taxi. What Tesla is doing is they're taking the future. Everyone knows autonomous vehicles are the future, and they're selling it to people in a form that they recognize, which is buying a car and owning it. The thing is that to buy a real self-driving car, it has so much expensive sensors and computers on it, you can't afford it. It's like, the sensors alone are like six figures. Forget the car, right?
Yeah, they're insane. Like air traffic control on a jet.
They only work as shared vehicles, as a robotaxi right now. But
right.
So what Tesla's saying is, buy this car. Sure, it doesn't drive itself now, but all we have to do is update the software. And then when we do, not only will your car drive itself everywhere without you having to do anything, when you don't use your car, you can put it out there and it will operate as a robotaxi for you. Your car will be earning you money. And they even said it will pay off itself. Like basically they're promising that this is a financial perpetual motion machine.
I would guess. People, you can trust people not to masturbate in your car, right? And eat tacos.
You in particular, Mr. Chucker.
And you know what I'm saying?
All I hear is I'm getting rich. I hear I'm going to hit the fucking jackpot as a personal injury attorney with this stuff out there. People already are incompetent, and when you give lazy people an opportunity to pay less attention, there's going to be mayhem.
Think of the world we live in, Zuckerman. What we saw just this weekend driving, with people unable to even know how to use their signals properly, know how to use passing lanes
You
properly.
will die at the hands of idiots.
I know,
the future is that's what the future is, dying at the hands of an idiot.
Think of the dumbest driver you've seen the last week driving, listeners, and now imagine them piloting your 747 on autopilot. You're just going to have them. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
Will it work in my lifetime?
So look, autonomous. I like I said, I just a couple weeks ago, I was in Chandler, Arizona. I was in a fully driverless. Nobody else was in the front seats.
Brave.
On public roads. But this is Waymo. This is Google. This is the company that developed autopilot, said this isn't safe. We're not going to do it.
Right.
We're going to just develop actual cars that actually really do drive themselves. And so whereas Tesla has one forward radar and then cameras around the car, and that's basically it, they have cameras around the car, which they, by the way, custom designed themselves, not off-the-shelf stuff like Tesla uses. They have at least 4 radar, so they have 360-degree radar coverage, and they have 360-degree of what's called LiDAR coverage. So they have 3 sensors providing 360 degrees of coverage and out to 30 meters, whatever, 90 feet or something like long ranges. And you can see in real time what this car can see, and it's everything around it, right? And it's because AI is limited. It can only do so much, and so it needs as much information about the world around it to make good choices. And what Tesla is doing is they're offering hardware, sensing hardware, that is 10% of the cost of what a real self-driving car needs, because unlike Waymo, Tesla has to sell this car to people. It has to be relatively affordable for a private person to buy.
Right.
Waymo doesn't have that problem. They're just making a taxi that they'll own and will go around and...
So do you think the Waymo system will work?
It has worked. I rode on it in public roads, and it's a bizarre experience. I've been in quite a few autonomous vehicles, but always with people in the front seat ready to take over in case something happens. When you take that person away, I thought I was pretty jaded about self-driving cars. It was an amazing experience.
So
it was
you get
nauseating, I would imagine.
Box. How do you wait, let's slow down and describe that, because then we have to go in a minute. You get into this car.
Yeah.
And then it goes, hello. It has a voice, right?
Hello.
Where would you like to go today? Hello, la, 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 hello.
Yeah. There's no Johnny Cap.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us what happens. You sit down in the back.
Well, so you hail it just like an Uber or Lyft.
Okay. You put your hand out on the side of the...
with the app.
You do the whistle like my dad used to.
Okay. It pulls up.
Yeah, it pulls up, and then
does the door open by itself, or
no?
do you
have to open the door yourself. You have a certain amount of time to sort of get all loaded in.
Okay.
It already knows your destination
because you plugged it in.
Because you plugged it in.
Okay.
Because this
does it talk at any point inside?
No. But you have a display screen right in front of you. So you have your app, which tells you a lot of what you need to know. You have a display screen right in front of you. And because this is they're just launching this fully driverless part of it, so there's no human from the company in the car, they actually do have it call into a call center automatically for the first couple of rides that you do that way.
Do they
so
have
you do actually talk to a person.
Do they have a panic button?
Yes, they have a panic button.
They have that string like in the
now
hotel.
Take us through. So it knows where you're going. You get in, the doors lock. Do they click lock? And then it starts moving, right?
When you shut it, it basically, and then you press a button on the screen that you're like ready to go. And make sure you're seatbelted. You have to have
and so it starts moving, and it's in real traffic with other cars.
Yep.
And what speeds are you at? Just were you checking speed limit speeds?
Up to 45.
Up to 45, moving along.
Yep.
And how does it drive? Like, we're, as drivers, we're almost sometimes on bumpers and close to cars. What are the spacings? Like, does it keep?
It's definitely on the conservative side.
It's very conservative, right? So it's keeping a big space. Were people cutting in front of you to get into that space, and was it slowing down?
Not really. No, it was pretty. I mean, look, it's Chandler, Arizona is like very suburban, lots of big streets, not a ton of traffic.
Right.
So it was not like a very competitive. It's not like driving the 405, right? Like, I don't think Waymo is ready to take on the 405. Although I think they are talking about coming to LA. But, honestly, it was very low drama. It was just weird being in a car and looking out the front and just there was no one there.
But now you don't have a crazy Uber. This was my last Uber experience right here. I'll just play this. This is what mine was like. I had 30 minutes of that.
Brush up on your Vietnamese.
Perfect. Yeah. No, yeah. A very delightful young lady who spoke unbelievable. I mean, for the language, her diction was insanely good.
Yeah.
The dings and the dong, it was just perfection. She really was great. But I didn't understand why she would talk loudly on a phone for a half an hour while I was held hostage in traffic, right? So this, what
she
you're
was
describing.
About you.
No, she wasn't.
Yeah, she was.
No, she wasn't.
So the funny thing about all this is that, so Google, they decided, it's called Waymo now, the self-driving car division, but back when they were Google, they developed an autopilot, decided it wasn't safe because they didn't want to get into this weird human-machine interaction thing. They did fully self-driving cars. They worked that technology. It's here. It's real. I've been in it. But now, you know what they say the problem is? Turns out that people who drive for a living do more than just drive. They've taught the computer how to drive. It's very good at that. It's very safe at that. But, like, what if you're on your way home and, you're like, hey, pull over here for 5 minutes. I just want to go into the store and get, like, a Snapple or whatever, and I'll be right back. And, leave the meter running or whatever it is. I'll give you $5.
That was going to be my question.
So. But and that's just one example of a whole bunch of things where people have to be, right? And humans...
but so let me ask you this. So if it stops at a stoplight, were you able to just open the door and jump out if you wanted to?
No, it locks you.
It locks you in.
I can't do this.
No. But there's a button. There's a big red button that's just pull over right now.
Pull over right now.
And it just finds the safest place to pull over. And
what if it says, I don't want to right now, loser?
The whole thing is scary.
You can also always call in their
you pull over
customer line and talk to a person.
Right.
So you are always
and here we are.
If you'd like to talk to a Waymo representative, please press 1.
You're in Stephen King's Christine. And
who are you calling right now?
Yes.
You should hang that phone up, loser. What?
Yes. Fuck your mother. You're going for a death ride.
I'm going to kill you. Actually.
But this is the part that's hard. They thought that self-driving cars would just be like, teach a car how to drive, and then everything else just takes care of itself. What they're finding is like, like the road is a social place. It's social interactions between humans. Getting into a car
That's true.
to get a ride with someone is a social interaction with a human. Taking all the humans out of it, that it seems simple, but there's actually all these weird things.
Traffic, when we got traffic and roads coming together and you let a guy go in, or hey, can you pull over? I want to cross lanes because that's my right turn.
Exactly.
How do you tell the self-driving car?
You summed it up earlier when you said the problem is the human machine interface.
Yes.
That's the one that is the San Andreas fault in this whole thing.
Yes, because technology is, we've made amazing progress in technology, but like when it runs up against needing to work with humans and interact with humans.
Each one different.
Because we're not rational. You get computers working together and it works. They all know the same rules. They're all rational. They all play the same games. You throw a human into the mix, whether it's in traffic on the road, whether it's in like a customer service situation, like there's all kinds of things that are just weird. And what computers are very good at not being distracted, not getting drunk, all kinds of things really great about computers, very precise, but they're not adaptable and they're not flexible. And that's what humans are. Humans are adaptable and they're flexible. And I think that's fundamentally what all this technology that's trying to automate how we get around is running into.
Okay.
Is that flexibility is a big part of how we get around. It's what we want out of it.
That's why you can't marry Gopher the dog. You can't interact with your dog
My
properly.
dog?
Yes.
I love my
just
dog.
like the would you marry your dog if you could?
Would I marry my dog?
Yes.
No, but I'd make him self-driving. That'd be cool if we could do that. Let me just ask you one last question, then we're gonna end this. It's been fascinating spending time with you. Would you get a Tesla? Would you buy a Tesla?
So you know that they know everybody. They have a file on every one of their owners, and your car is constantly connected to them. So I certainly wouldn't be able to, continue to do reporting on Tesla if I owned a Tesla, because I would not trust them to not listen into everything that happens in my car or anything.
So they're doing that, huh? So they're another privacy concern.
They definitely have given people reason to believe that they don't really live up to their privacy commitments. Yeah.
Video and audio and just GPS is.
I mean, and so the other problem. So I would consider
didn't answer that question.
I would consider leasing a Tesla, honestly. Like if I, under the right circumstances. But
right.
I've got a car that I love.
But you have privacy concerns. But anyways,
yeah.
Ed, thank you for coming in. The book is Ludicrous: The Unvarnished Story of Tesla Motors. As you can tell, he really knows what he's talking about here. And the book is a fascinating read. Thank you for giving us our copies, my friend.
Yeah.
But the show is not over yet. When we return, we have some extra content for you. There's a new Netflix movie called 6 Underground. Ryan Reynolds is the star, and we have the guy who did his stunt driving, Brett Smrz, and he's got an incredible story to tell you. Please stay with us. As we head back into the NFL season, it's always a bittersweet moment. So much great football's behind us. Good news, there's a lot in front of us. The NFL playoffs, the college football playoffs, and bowl season. If you're looking to add some excitement, make BetDSI.com your betting partner. Using BetDSI's live betting platform, you can watch all the events and bet on the games right up until the final whistle. And guess what? When you sign up, and you're a new member, you get a 100% bonus match using my special code. You want to know what it is? It's Spike101. That is a 100% bonus match code, doubling your money to start winning today. Why do you choose BetDSI? Well, BetDSI has the fastest payouts in the industry. Just in the time it took you to breathe, blink your eyes, you get paid. New members get a 100% bonus match using promo code Spike101. That's promo code Spike101. Go to BetDSI.com and use promo code, you say it, I'm tired of saying it, Spike101.
You're listening to Spike's Car Radio.
All right, we're back. What a show today. Zuckerman has left. He's off to make his money and to drink baby blood and do all the horrible things that keep him moving. And I've got some extra content for you today. Today we're being visited now by Brett Smrz. What an interesting last name you have. You don't know this guy, but you know his driving. There's a movie that's debuting on Netflix called 6 Underground with Ryan Reynolds. It's a big, splashy... It's another big, splashy car movie, right, Brett?
Yeah.
How would you describe this movie? Because you sent me the trailer, and I put the two harshest movie critics on the couch to watch it, 11-year-old Jack and 9-year-old James, and they went, "Oh, my God! Can we watch this now?" And I said, no. The Netflix publicist sitting in the outside interior hallway there didn't send me a link. Here's what I saw in the trailer. I saw beautiful European locations, right?
Yes.
Italy?
Yep. No, we were in Florence and Rome.
Florence and Rome. I saw Alfa Romeos skidding and drifting. Lots of that. I saw beautiful aerial shots and people sliding down skyscrapers, James Bondy style. It looks like a really fun... Do you have any idea what this movie cost? It looks like another one of those, like, oh my God, Netflix just spent $200 million on a movie that they're not going to get box. It's like up there, right?
It was pretty close to that, yeah. So I think this is Netflix's biggest budgeted movie that they've ever done.
Wow.
So
and that says a lot because The Irishman just came out.
Yep, this is a big one. It's a big one. So it's going to be
that was $100 million, and then I heard that they paid $100 million to age down all the cast, which didn't work, by the way. And you also did some driving in Ford versus Ferrari. So Brett Smrz is a stunt driver. with a very interesting story. You started off as a racer, right?
Yes.
How old? Where are you from, first of all?
So I was born in New Jersey. I lived in California most of my life, and for my teenage years, I lived in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Oh, wow.
So I've been around a little bit, but mostly Los Angeles is my home base.
Yeah, these are lots of places that I know very well.
Yeah,
Coeur
very
d'Alene,
good.
Idaho. I spend summers up there.
Very good.
Yeah, New Jersey. My brother lives there. But grew up in New Jersey, you wanted to be a race car driver, right?
No.
When does this racing thing kick in?
My dad was a motorcycle racer when he grew up. He raced road racing motorcycles and got into that. And when I was 11 years old, I asked him for a motorcycle for Christmas, and he bought me a go-kart. So it was a different from what I asked for, but it got me into cars, and that's kind of led my whole life to today.
I just had that conversation with my 11-year-old last night.
Yeah, you should do it. Go-karting is a great time. It's fun family sport. And
they don't know.
Expensive.
Well, the problem with the go-kart in Los Angeles is, where do you drive the go-kart in Los Angeles?
I mean, you could always go into the neighborhood and just make your neighbors happy.
Yeah, it's mostly about the low profile of the go-kart around moms on looking at their iPhones. I said, if you want to get squashed like a little dog. But I am getting them a Taco mini bike.
Oh, yeah.
Which has a little higher profile, a nice big orange Taco mini bike.
Very cool.
So they're getting something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, speed is great. And that's where I started off young age. And I loved it, and now I'm hooked. And now I spend all my money on cars and and racing.
So how do you transition from racing into stunt driving?
So when my dad was growing up, he decided to do motorcycle racing, and when that didn't work out, he chose stunts. So him and his brothers got into stunts, and they did that for their whole life. And when I grew up
here in California, in Los Angeles?
Well, they lived in New York at the time, or Philadelphia, and they worked in New York, but then they moved to LA.
Was that much work in New York doing stunt driving?
There's a lot of work in New York. I don't know about per se for stunt driving, but there's a lot of stunt work out in New York.
No kidding.
And that's where they began. And then LA is like the main, at least back then, it was the main home base. So that's where they all moved out here. And when I saw my dad was doing it, I wanted to do racing at first, but then I realized how expensive it was. And, I had the door open for stunts. So I decided to go that route, and I'm glad I did.
So what is your first stunt when they go, hey, kid? How old are you when your first stunt?
My first one was, I was 18. I was on the movie The Surrogates with Bruce Willis, and I showed up on set, and they pointed to a truck, and they said, "Go get in that truck. You're gonna crash it." And it was like my first job, and I was like, "Okay." So I jumped in it, and I did it, and nailed it, and did a good job.
When you crash it, in what way?
It was a T-bone crash. So there was another car coming from a blind intersection. I couldn't see them behind a building, and we had to do like a countdown. A 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, because I couldn't see him to do the blind T-bone. So I was just crashing into like a Chevy Malibu or something.
And what do you have a special harness, or do you just have the existing lap belt?
For that one, I put in a special lap belt, like a racing harness. Usually we'll wear like a 5-point or something, but I think this was pretty quick and like go get in it and do it. So I threw a lap belt in, and for that I just kind of tucked my chin and dug it into my chest as much as I could.
So you're just showing up to the set. See, I was just thinking about this morning because I wanted to be a stunt driver.
Yep.
Right? And as the older I got in my teenage years, I realized, these guys actually sit down and have meetings about this.
Oh, yeah.
But now you're saying what I wanted to do, which is you just show up and go crash, and you just figure it out, right? That's just what I wanted to do. I just wanted to do that. Were you terrified? Had you ever crashed before?
I had never been in. And here's the thing: I got off the racing circuit, and I was trained not to crash,
right?
And at all costs, don't crash the car. And then I got on set, and like the first 5 days on set, they go, get in that car and crash it. So my brain was automatically like, this is not right.
So when you crash, what did you feel?
I mean, it felt very jarring.
You did?
But I felt fine. It was, honestly, I really enjoyed it. Like, it was really fun.
And how did you stop your body from moving forward into the steering wheel? Did you just tighten your arms up?
No, so I had the lap belt, so that helped me from, moving forward. But then I braced my arms on the wheel, and you straighten them, not all the way. Like, you kind of keep your arms bent a little bit, and you brace on the wheel, and then you tuck your chin in, and you take all the impact so your neck doesn't go flying around. So you just duck your chin and take the hit. But that's not. Normally you're wearing like safety harnesses and helmets and whatever.
I know.
But this was just a
quick
quick opportunity.
So if we're skidding into an accident just on the road, you want to tuck your chin.
Yeah.
Because it's the neck. Tuck it down like this.
Exactly. So you don't get whiplash or anything like that. And it won't be perfect, but it'll definitely help.
Wow. Here's what's a really interesting detail about that story, ladies and gentlemen. Take us back 2 years prior to this.
Yeah.
You're on a trampoline. You're jumping up and down, presumably at a birthday party, or is this drunken tomfoolery?
I was at my ex-girlfriend's house, just trying to impress her.
She's wow, she sounds like a fun girl. She's got a trampoline. And what happens? Tell everybody what happened.
Let's see. So I was at her house, and we had a friend there. His name was Justin. He got up on the balcony, and he said, "Hey, let's jump off the balcony."
Send it official now. It's the Instagram.
And so he jumped off, and I was like, I'm going to one-up him. So I got up there, and I was like, I used to be a gymnast, so I was like, I'm going to do a flip.
How many beers?
I had 0 beers.
Zero beers?
Didn't drink at that time.
Wow, you are a real stuntman.
I was pretty clean at that point. So so I got up there. I did a brandy flip, which is a front flip with a twist. And when I landed, I was still twisting. I landed on my feet, dead center of the trampoline, but I was still twisting. And that torquing motion it didn't break the bone in half, but it pretty much sheared it. It shifted the bone, cut the artery, damaged the meniscus. Jammed into
which leg?
It was bad. My left leg.
Your left leg.
I got compartment syndrome, so all the blood was coming in. Ugh. It wasn't really flowing out, so it was just getting big and bigger and bigger. It was pretty messy. But
did they take you right to the hospital?
It took a couple hours. I was being pretty lazy about it. I thought I was 16. I was going to get in a lot of trouble, and I had a race the next weekend, so I didn't want to believe that my leg was broken. I knew it, but I just didn't want to believe it. So I was trying to be slow about it. And when I eventually got to the hospital, it took a couple hours for me to get into surgery, but I had immediate surgery. Ended up having 9 in total in 13 days. I lost 50 pounds. I weighed 90 pounds in the hospital.
Jeez. 9 surgeries.
Yeah, the 5th one was when they amputated it. It took them 3 days to figure out the artery was cut, so it was kind of a mess in general. Like, the doctors were not really up on
I wish Zuckerman was here. You know, my co-host is a PI attorney. We can make you some money.
Oh, yeah.
This story.
Yeah,
they did their best, do you think?
I mean, the guy, he hadn't done an amputation in 15 years. The doctor actually left town the day of the amputation and gave it to his assistant to do.
Right.
So it was just a big mess. I mean, that was a long time ago, and we dealt with it then. So
wow.
It wasn't.
But you lose your leg.
I did. Yeah, it's gone. But I grew another one. So.
But you know, that's a horrible moment for a kid, right? You're racing the next weekend.
Yeah, it was horrible. But you know what? In all honesty,
here's the real question: did you lose the girl? Was she impressed?
No, she wasn't. And I actually
look what I did. I did a jump and lost my leg. She didn't really. She didn't
even watch.
Wow.
She turned her back. Oh man, that was the breaker right there. I was like, yeah, I lost my leg for you.
So just to give some, it's just so I want to make sure you heard what you just heard. This guy is a stunt driver, and he lost his leg at 16. He's 2 years later. He's T-boning cars on the set of what? The Surrogate.
The Surrogates, yeah.
Okay, so now let's talk about this new leg you have, because it's very auto-related, right? Tell us what you had made.
So let's see. So I went through a few legs over the years, which is not what most people would say. I have a few in my closet saved in case one breaks.
What makes a good leg?
What makes it, honestly, there's a lot of leg products out there. I use Oser. They are really good, very good product, good brand. But my leg is actually from the 90s. It's pretty old. I
like
choose
vintage legs.
I do.
A classic leg.
It's like the design is from the 90s, but they keep updating like little things about it. But
it's carbon fiber.
Mine is carbon fiber, and titanium. But
that doesn't mean like carbon fiber as far as like polished and with that finish.
It is. No, it's all carbon fiber and very fragile. I mean, not really. I beat it up pretty bad.
Right.
I'm on it all day, and I'm pretty hard on it. I just broke it for the first time after like 2.5 years of wearing it. The carbon fiber just started flaying out of the side.
Right.
So I just got a new one, or an old foot, and replaced it, put it on there. But my leg is pretty old. It's got a shock, it's got a leaf spring on the side, and the toe kind of splits. So I like that one because it's stiff. A lot of people really like soft walking. And
you sound like a guy who could really design the next new great leg.
Man,
right?
I wish. I know the guy that can, but not me. I'm not that smart.
No, but I mean, you'd be able to give that feedback Because you're already giving it very accurately just in the description of what makes it actually work. I mean, I would think it's invaluable feedback for someone.
Well, thanks.
Because you're designing it, you're talking about it in almost automotive car terms, like a test driver like Ken Miles behind the GT40. It's a good idea, but it's not right yet. It's too much weight or the wind or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that's from my racing background, just whenever you get off the track. It's kind of the same. Like you can change the toe in, toe out. You can change caster camber on it.
If there's somebody out there listening who knows somebody who designed, this is the guy you want to talk to because he's got the feedback. He's going to make that thing right. Anyway, let's talk about the movie. So you're a stunt driver. This is what you do. You don't let this stop you. It's an amazing story, right? You're just like, whatever. That's, I think, the 16-year-old. That just goes, you know what? Let's just keep going with this, right?
Yeah.
Did you continue racing first, or did you just jump into the stunt driving?
No, I tried racing for 2 more years after that, and I did. I re-raced. I won a lot of stuff. I won a scholarship called the Team USA scholarship.
Did
2
your
years
parents
after.
just at any point just look at you and say, "What? You want to what?"
No, they were actually, honestly, my mom was the one who was the most emotional about the entire thing. I honestly didn't care that I was losing my leg.
Right.
And the only reason I say that is because I met a stunt guy named Casey Peretti who had a prosthetic leg, and he doubled Inspector Gadget, and he was wearing stilts with his prosthetic leg sprinting down the street in Vancouver, Canada when I was 9 years old. So that was like locked in my brain. That guy's really cool.
You've got these role models.
And then I had another one. I just read a book called Alex Zanardi, My Sweetest Victory, and he's a racer. He lost his legs, and the book was great, and I just finished it right before I broke my leg. So I had those things in my brain. I knew I wanted to race, and I was 16. I had a long life ahead of me, so I wasn't going to let it stop me. So I was actually back in a car in 3 months after the accident.
All right. Well, let's talk about the film here.
So
I can sense your publicist getting upset that we're not promoting the movie. Look at him smiling. He's like, yeah, that's right. Promote that movie. I'm going to watch it. I am excited about seeing it. 6 Underground. I mean, what's better than watching something like this around the holidays, right? With everybody crowded around the big TV. You can see it in theaters on December 11th. And then it's on Netflix shortly after on the 13th. Michael Bay is your director, right?
Yes.
What was it like working with Michael Bay? Because he's got quite a reputation for big, splashy, fun scenes.
He does. No, it was a lot of explosions, as you can imagine.
Lots of fire.
Lots of fire, explosions. No, it was a great time. I really had a good time with Michael. He's a very serious director. He's honestly, I thought he was fun to work with because I like working with serious people that are, know what they want, know what they're doing.
Did you spend any time with Ryan Reynolds?
I did. I got to drive Ryan around for a little bit.
Super funny, nice guy, right?
Super funny. Nicer than you can imagine. He's very, very nice, very humble.
He's also a driver, but he likes motorcycles. He likes Triumph bikes, right?
Yeah, I did not know that about him. He really likes motorcycles. We talked about that for a little bit, so that was pretty cool.
Did he do any of his stunt driving? Is he a good driver, in your opinion?
He actually was riding passenger for the movie.
Oh, wow.
So he wasn't driving.
Did he get car sick?
It was Dave. It was Dave that was driving.
Wow.
Dave Franco.
Yes. Oh, yeah. How did he do? I like him.
So he did a few shots by himself. I actually trained him at Willow Springs at Drift 101 before we went.
I've done Drift 101. What a great program that is.
Yeah.
Who's the fella there?
Oh, man. I can't remember
He is such a funny guy. You get the feeling that he lives out at Willow Springs.
He does.
He does?
He does live
in
there.
The cars behind a dumpster, and then he comes out, and you start drifting these funny cars. It's such a great program. You guys, if you want to learn how to drift, Drift 101. I'm taking my kids there as soon as they're old enough. They're dying to go.
That's an
fun.
awesome program.
So how much time did Franco spend on the track?
We spent him there 2 days.
2 days. Wow.
So we had 2 full days. I got him drifting after day 1. He'd never driven a manual. So I was actually really impressed with him. If he spent some time behind the wheel, I guarantee you he'd be pretty fast.
Yeah.
He's a good driver. As far as Ryan's driving, I'm not really sure. I didn't see him drive. He was just riding passengers a lot. But I'm sure he's great.
He's one of those weird guys who he can do it all.
Yeah.
He can act.
Totally.
He's funny. Seems a big good husband. Collects motorcycles.
Yep.
We hate him for it. We just hate him for it. And, all right. What was the most challenging scene here? You guys, so you're driving that Alfa Romeo Giulia's, right?
Yes.
You like that car? How is it? I mean, it's got a reputation for not being all that reliable as far as like a car on the road. What is it like to use as a stunt car?
Man, that's actually, to be honest, that actually shocks me. I would say that the Alfa would be a pretty reliable. I don't know about mechanically, but as far as like driving as a daily driver, it's a really nice car. The only qualms that I had about it as far as being a stunt driver is that you couldn't couldn't turn all the aids off, so we had to kind of work around it. We had the Alpha technician from Alpha. He helped me, get the car going the way we needed it to slide around. So we had some extra mods on there. But otherwise, I really love the Alpha. It is such a great car. I would own one if I could and had all the aids and everything off all the time. I would just be sliding around everywhere. So
you, and the big scene, it seems like the big stunt scene is in the Uffizi Museum. What is the Uffizi Museum? But you're driving through the I mean, explain what's happening here, because they don't even let you kind of walk into a museum without washing your hands these days.
Right.
How did you get permission to drive a car through a museum?
That is a great question. I have no idea how he got permission to do that. When they say we're going to do this scene, this shot in the Uffizi Museum, I know, and I'm not pronouncing that right, in a museum, you go, okay. What did they take you into a room and say, here's the storyboard, we're going to... No, you're shaking your head. You show up to work that day and they say you're going to drive through a museum? No, we had a scout like a couple weeks before we actually shot it, but it was mainly just walking through it, seeing if it was possible. And then on the day you show up and it's like, there's a glass door that wasn't there before, you're going to be busting through it. And by the way, you can't see through it, but you only have like 20 feet to stop afterwards to make the turn. Otherwise, you're going to run into a statue inside of the museum, which is invaluable. And if you touch it, you're leaving Italy. It's kind of what we were told.
Oh my God, I don't even understand how. Well, this is the Italians. They don't make sense a lot.
That was the most nerve-wracking part of the movie, for sure.
So have to fly in. I think I saw the scene in the trailer. Right? There's an archway.
Yep.
They've installed their glass doors, right, which you're going to blast through. How hot are you coming in?
I was coming in probably about 35 or so.
Okay.
My concern was when the glass breaks, is it going to be slippery? Because the ground was really slippery in general. It's really
marble floor, right?
Very smooth and slippery.
Right.
But then the glass breaking on the wheels and stuff, I didn't know how slippery it was going to be when I got in there. So that was really the test.
If you skid too far, you hit the statue.
Pretty much, yeah.
How many takes do you get?
One. It was one take.
One take.
So it was one and done. If you mess it up, maybe they might have had a second door, but it was just a one and done. Would have taken hours to reset.
But once you're inside, I'm imagining you're still driving, right? Does the chase continue inside the museum?
Went through the doors and out the other side. It was pretty crazy.
And you have Ryan Reynolds in your passenger seat.
No, that one was. I had the stunt double in the passenger seat with me, but they had a lot of fun on that one. I had 4 people in the car, or 3 people, one including me, and then but they were in there the entire movie, so they had a blast getting to ride passenger, and they all said that it was a fun time. So
you just must be pinching yourself, right? Going, how is this my life right now?
Honestly,
what a fantastic thing.
To be able to go to Italy and do a full car chase sequence with Netflix and Michael Bay and Alfa Romeo in that car was such a good time. I mean, it was really, like, looking back on it, it was really fun. I'm going to remember it my whole life.
Yeah, and you're living the dream, and you're just starting.
For sure.
You're just starting. Before I let you go, did they call you up for that Ford versus Ferrari movie? Did you work on that?
I did. Yeah, I worked on that. I drove one of the old Ferraris.
You did?
I did for a little bit.
For which scenes?
It was for the scene when they started the 24-hour race. I got to run across, jump in it, pull out.
Look at this guy. Are you inspired by this guy, listeners? Look at that. He's in the running scene. That's one of my favorite scenes. My kids were like, that's the poster you have on our wall. Because I have this old Belagon from the Le Mans race in the late 50s, a little poster I found on eBay, and it shows those guys running across. I love this poster. And I was so happy to see that scene. Were you in the foreground or in the back?
Unfortunately, I was in the far back. I was in last.
Right. What did you learn from that sprint? Because they don't do it anymore, right?
What did I learn from it?
As far as being a racer, it seems ridiculous that there is a running element to this.
It's really, honestly, thinking about it, like, it was cool to be on that set and see it and just be a part of it, and then actually get to do the running sequence. I can't even imagine doing that for real. If you did that for real, you would just be jumping in the car and maybe you get your belts on in time to leave. And otherwise you're probably throwing your belts on while you're driving.
Well, you're opening a door, closing a door, starting a car, putting on your belts.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of a slow moment, right?
You see people jump in and leave, like they're gone.
Right.
So you know that they're out there with their belts off, and they're just sitting there fumbling while they're driving, trying to get their belts buckled. And it was a different time back then. Those guys were wild. I mean,
so you're getting in that car. How much driving did you do after that? Is this one of those super performance cars? Is that what it was?
Well, the Ferrari that I was in was one of the Hero.
It was a Ferrari.
It was the Hero Ferrari, so it had a really good engine in it. So that was really fun to drive.
What was that car? Because I know the Fords and the Shelbys, those were super performance replicas.
Yes.
Your car was what?
It was a replica, but it just had like an LS3 in it.
Corvette motors.
Yes. So that's just with every movie, you know, like most, not every movie, like not in Six Underground. We had the real Alpha, and that was all done for real. But like in those movies, it's all kit cars, and they have engine. Not all of them, but most of them are kit cars. They have like LS motors in them, or they're honestly like falling apart. They look beautiful, but a lot of them are falling apart, and it was a fun time. I got to do the pull-out scene. Got to drive on
where
Willow
were you
Springs
in Atlanta doing that part of it?
They did film in Atlanta, but I actually went out to Italy to film Six Underground. I was going to join them, but I chose Six Underground instead, which I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
But we did those shots at Willow Springs. And then they did some in Atlanta at Road Atlanta, and I think those were the two main tracks that they used to film.
There you go. What an amazing life you have. What an amazing life. You're listening to Brett Smrz. This new movie, Six Underground, they want to take your Alfa Romeo and do what the Italian Job did and make it the most desirable new car. We love the way those cars look, and now you're going to get to see the way they drive. You got to check this out. I watched the trailer. We're all excited about seeing it this Christmas. I'm looking for the dates. There it is. In theaters, December 11th, and then on Netflix, December 13th. For the lazy folks like me, Six Underground. Brett Smrz, thank you for coming by, man. Come back and see us sometime.
I will. Thank you so much.
And that's been Spike's Car Radio. We'll see you next week, folks.
Thanks for listening to Spike's Car Radio. Download new episodes every Wednesday on the Podcast One app, or subscribe now at Apple Podcasts or PodcastOne.com.
Hey, Jordan here. I know a lot of you create your own podcasts, and a lot of you already have one like me. I obviously love what I do. It's taken a lot of hard work to get to this point of success. You shouldn't have to pay fees for platform hosting, distribution, analytics, or fees to create a podcast. You need to be able to focus on producing the best show possible. Now, Podcast One, that's the network I'm on, they have Launchpad Digital Media, or Launchpad DM for short. So it's free, includes unlimited hosting, full control of distribution. You have access to a full dashboard with analytics. Again, totally free. You own everything, by the way. You own your content, you own your subscribers, no tricky stuff there. And you get your own show page on launchpaddm.com for people to listen to and subscribe to your show. It's the only hosting platform brought to you by the leading network, Podcast One. Podcast One will promote the site, drive people to discover your podcast, and if your show grows, you could even be invited to join Podcast One's all-star roster, which includes people like Adam Carolla, Caitlin Bristow, Shaq, Lady Gang, and of course me, Jordan Harbinger. I'm there too. You also get access to their production and sales support. So with all this completely free, don't use other hosting platforms. Why would you need to? Learn more or sign up now at launchpaddm.com. And don't forget to check out The Jordan Harbinger Show.